This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic book fans. I am your host, Mike Rapin, and joining me this week, two really cool stickers I picked up at a local convention, and I just can't find a place to put them. This week, I am joined by, from the Next Issue podcast, Danny.
I'm a shiny foil version of that sticker.
Thank you, Danny. And our very special guest for this episode, comic book creator and contributor to the IRCB zine, Totally Not a Cult, Jesse Lonergan.
Hi, thanks for being here. I didn't realize I was a sticker.
Well,
I don't think I'm a shiny one. I'm like an old beat up bottom of a skateboard sticker.
Well, you know, the thing is you're very important, and I just don't know what to do with you. That's the biggest thing. And I like to collect stickers. That's my big thing as well. So, you know, I'm just glad that you're all here. But we're here to talk about comic books. I guess maybe for the folks at home that don't know you, Jesse, could you give us a little spiel about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a comic book writer and artist, mainly an artist, I guess. I worked with Mike Mignola doing this True Sale in the Hellboy universe, which we've done one series, and another series is coming up at the end of the year. I've also done stuff with Hornsack Picture Show, Man's Best, and this week my new book DROME is coming out. That's a total solo work graphic novel that I feel pretty good about. So yeah.
Yeah, well, Danny and I think, can safely say that we are very excited to have you, and that DROME is pretty great. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later in the show. For now, I have two legally mandated questions that I have to ask, and that's, how have you been? How have comic books been? Let's start with you, Jesse. What have you been reading?
I've been pretty good, and I feel comics have been pretty good. I feel like I go through phases of my ability to get through comics, like where it's sometimes it's like a struggle to get through a single issue, and other times it feels like I can sort of like read and enjoy things. I don't know if it's the outside world like affecting my brain or whatever, but I feel like I've been reading more comics of late and enjoying comics more of late.
Yeah. I think we go in waves, right? I think as people, like, we just have times where like it's we're gonna sit down on a Saturday afternoon and I'm just gonna binge through like all of those volumes of something that I've been meaning to. And then like I feel this right now. I feel in the same boat, I think, of like I sit down to read like an issue and it's like a 45-minute process. And it's not even like a complicated book. You're just like, everything is distracting. I just can't keep focus on things. Like I totally feel that, man. But we, you know, like I said, it goes in waves. Hopefully things will calm down in general, and maybe you can get back into binge reading again, right? Yeah. But what have you been reading when you've had the time to, or the capacity to?
So the specific book I just read was Baby Blue by Bim Erickson, which is a Fantagraphics book. So I think whatever your impression of Fantagraphics books are, it will not change them. So like if I don't mean that in a negative way. It's like if you like the kind of stuff Fantagraphics publishes, you'll probably like this book. If you hear Fantagraphics and you're like, not really for me, you probably won't like it. But it's sort of it's a dystopian story where set in the future, following this character in a fascist society where sort of feelings are judged and stuff. And so like if you're on like a train and you look sad, that's a sign of a problem. And like, a police officer will talk to you and be like, you are disturbing the other passengers with like your sadness. Or your expression of emotions. And like there's all this, like there's certain types of music is banned because it's too sad and stuff, which I was like, that must be every song then, like but like the entirety of the Smiths catalog is banned and stuff like that. So it's this kind of futuristic dystopian state, and sort of follows this character going to sort of a mental hospital, and then finding sort of a connection with the resistance. And I enjoyed it a lot. I like the story. I feel like there's clear like connections to, I don't know, repression of everything that's going on now. I mean, like the kind of intolerance that we're seeing seems to be growing and growing. But also, I feel like for me, sort of touched on this idea of like you're supposed to be happy that I get from everywhere. I feel like and with how we interact so much online, this kind of like front of like happiness and positivity that I feel kind of feels like we're silencing ourselves in a way of not wanting to express I don't know, just the standard feelings we all go through, because I think with it being online, it's complicated because it's sort of like you're talking to everybody all the time is kind of what it feels like. And it's like, well, I don't want to say I'm bumming out to everybody, you know, like there's a few close people I feel comfortable saying that, but that censorship of myself of like, this is how I talk to the world and this is how I talk to my friends. Like, I think everybody's sort of doing that, but it creates this impression of like only the good stuff, only positive feelings, and sort of, seeing this in a book, this sort of, and it goes much beyond that sort of level of stuff, but it was an enjoyable read. I really like the art. It's got this sort of, very fantagraphic style, but sort of clean lines, like heavy blacks at times, not much in the way of cross hatching or hatching or anything. And then like kind of this distortion where like heads will be small and bodies will be big and hands will be even bigger, that I found really enjoyable. So that was the last book I read.
Nice. This I'd never heard of this book. I try to keep a diligent eye on the Fantagraphics catalog, if only because I'm one of those people that's just like, oh, I love all of that shit. Like that, all that stuff really just clicks in my head. I somehow missed this, so thank you for bringing it to my attention.
I feel like that's the other thing is Fantagraphics books. It's easy to miss. I feel like there'll be a book that's like, I'll be like in a store and be like, I'd never heard of this. And I think I saw somebody just like post a pile of their books that they had recently read, and I was like, what is that? And hunted it down.
Yeah, well, I have to add this to my forever to read list, but go ahead, Danny.
I was going to say, I like your description of this book, if anything, because I feel like I would thrive in that world, because I have what I like to describe as resting goofy grin, where I was just, if I'm just out in public, like I have that perception, like maybe there's turmoil maybe going inside, but like if you just see me from afar, you're like, oh, that guy looks like he's having a good time, whatever he's doing. So definitely want to check that out as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I would thrive in that world. I feel like I have, I guess I like to think of it as neutral, but I think it's probably a very, like northern face is what I think of it, is like oh, that guy is not from the like below, that guy has cold winters in his past. I feel I have that face, that he's like, he stood out of bus stop in like 10-degree weather. That I have that face, I think.
Interesting.
So a New England neutral, negative for the rest of the world.
Right. I like yeah, you really have to classify the face based on like what region of the United States you're in, or like the Western world you're in. That's very interesting. Oh yeah, I'm now I'm trying to think of where I sit, and I realized that I caught myself yesterday in like a situation where I was looking at someone and I was kind of just like squinting with like my like top teeth show, like I was doing like this like I couldn't figure out what they were saying to me. This is like a friend of mine, and I was like listening to them talk, and I realized, why am I staring at them like this? Because I think they were confused as well. So maybe just resting confused face. I think that's where I'm at. So thank you for letting us all self-reflect today, Jesse. I appreciate that. Danny, let's move on to you. How have you been? How have comic books been? What have you been reading?
Ooh, Mike, it's been quite a week. First of all, just a quick update for anybody following up. I think I'm getting better at the Gundam trading card game. Going 2-1 this week.
Nice.
And I've realized that I don't know much. I don't remember much about Gundam. It's been like, I don't know, 20 years since I probably watched the last Gundam thing. But playing with little cards with robots on them and then putting pilots on them is really fun. So I hopefully we get more product out. That's the only thing, because I haven't been able. Nobody can find any of this.
Right.
And then also for the patrons watching, you can see my Godzilla shirt. This week I went to watch the re-release of Shin Godzilla 4K. I had never seen it. I missed it back in 2016 because I think it was very hard to watch.
Yeah.
Originally, like it only premiered for like a week, I think, and they've never really put out like a release. So I will be talking about that probably more in the post credits. It's been a pretty Godzilla heavy week for me with all the new Kaisei stuff, IDW, and then prepping for this episode as well.
Mm-hmm.
We'll definitely talk a little bit more about Jesse's contribution to the Godzilla world.
Yeah.
And I also wish, as far as what I'm reading, I wish I could take credit for preparing for a guest that we're going to have, but I don't have that much foresight. This is just a happy coincidence. For today's show, I read New Gods, Volume 1, The Falling Sky. Now, the collection isn't out, so I just read the first 6 issues. I like to, when I'm doing an ongoing that I need to catch up on, I like to stop where the collection stops before I kind of keep going forward. I don't know why. I could just keep reading. It's all on the DC Infinite app. I have the single issues, but I figured it was a good stopping point. This is written by Ramvi. Well, the main artist on the book is Evan Cagle, with colors by Francesco Segala, letters by Tom Napolitano. Really cool covers by Nimid Malavia. I hope I said any of those names correctly. But here's where everything becomes very relevant to what we're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
As I was looking through, every issue has a guest artist. So we have Jorge Fornes. On the second issue, there's Jesse Lonergan. And I really popped myself when I saw, like, oh, cool. Well, this is something else I could talk to Jesse about tomorrow. This is great. You also have Ricardo Federici, Bernard Chang, Andrew McLean, and Felipe Andrade. So kudos to whoever's editing this book and trying to put it together, because I can't imagine I don't know what it takes to put together a book like this. It's already probably hard enough working with like a regular artist and a regular writer. I
know who did it.
Yeah. I mean, please.
I think Rom and Evan were responsible for, at least for like suggesting like the guest artist. I know Rom reached out to me to talk about doing it before DC did, and then with DC, it's a team of editors, but like I think it's a lot of work for the editors to put this much stuff together in place. Rob Levin was the editor that I dealt with working on. And my part is very, very small. My part is 4 pages.
There are no small parts, Jesse. Right? There are no small parts in comic
only
books.
Small panels, right? That's the way.
Yeah, only small panels, especially in Jesse's pages. You really have to. Yeah. Luckily, I was reading digitally, so I could really get in there. Let me give a quick synopsis for this book. If the artist roster didn't already pull you in, following the death of Darkseid, a devastating prophecy ripples across the 4 worlds as a stern inquisitorial force called the Nyktari advances on Apocalypse, New Genesis, and Earth. Orion is driven by an impossible order, while Mr. Miracle and Big Barda try to protect a mysterious child, potentially a new god made manifest, who might be the salvation or seed a greater darkness. Now, I did look ahead. The next volume is called The Great Darkness. So I kind of I have a feeling I know where the story's going.
Maybe.
I mean, I read the first issue when this first came out, and I love Ramvi and the books that he's been putting out recently. When I saw that Evan Cagle was in this, I was like, oh, I love their Dawn Runner book. I talked about it. I think we put it on our list of best books of 2024.
Yeah.
You can go check out our website for the full list, but I was very excited about that. It's just such an ambitious undertaking when it comes to dealing with these characters. Jack Kirby did not make the 4th world an easy approach to anyone, not the readers, and definitely not the creators that would follow. So that's really the first thing, because there's such a great expansion of the 4 world lore in this, like this whole prophecy and this new like this new force that's coming to take on the new gods. I think the book holds a little bit of a higher barrier of entry, but the reward is so great. Once you kind of get past it, like I recommend you just try to vibe along with the book, and that's kind of what I did because I've never read any Kirby Four World stuff. Like it's just it's on my forever list of things to check out, but then they keep putting out new comics on Wednesday, so I never get to go back to the previous stuff. I do feel like every page of this is just meticulously planned. You're kind of bombarded with art and in the best of ways, whether it's the guest artist or Evan Cagle, who is designs for his new gods are some of my favorite stuff I've seen. Like Orion has never looked so cool, I think. They even made some like really cool acetate variant covers. Those are kind of like the see-through. If you remember in school when the teacher would put a projection on the board. Maybe I'm dating myself. Maybe they don't do that anymore. But I feel like at least
I think I'm older than you, so
I think this group would at least.
I remember mimeograph machines. So
okay.
So yeah, I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. It really incorporates a lot, and the more that the book goes on, I love following Scott and Barda. Their relationship is so much fun because Scott always feels like he has to protect them, and maybe by doing that he's leaving them out of the loop. But of course Barda, like that's not her ways, right? She's like, we're gonna do this together. They now have a baby, so like there's also that whole, I guess we gotta bring the baby on to the battle. And with the new gods you never know what to expect. There's some, like every time I see I think it's the Black Racer when he puts on his skis and just takes off, and I'm like, this is the most ridiculously but really fun stuff in comics. So I highly recommend it. And then, like I said, you can see some of Jesse's like very, very peculiar little panels that you have to follow along. But it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I've been having a great time with that book. I know there's like a religious dedication to it on the Discord for a couple of people. And I completely understand it. Like there is so much to take in, and I'm right there with you, Danny. Like the amount of information I know about the Fourth World is about like the size of a penny. In that I read the Mr. Miracle book that Tom King put out, and I think that's about it. And you know, you kind of can't be reading comic books in the DC universe for a long time and not know who Darkseid is and know about how these weird old new and old gods and stuff. But yeah, never really connected with it. This book is making me very invested. So I'm gonna have to thank Rom V for that, for finally getting me into that crazy Jack Kirby stuff after all these years. Jesse, have you read any of this at all?
I read some of the scripts, but okay. It's on my like to be read pile. Like it's the to get to pile of stuff where I just haven't gotten around to it. I've looked and flipped. I have the issues, but I haven't actually read them yet. Yeah, but I love the Fourth World. The Jack Kirby stuff. It's with Jack Kirby. I feel like there's like the amount of ideas that he puts out, like he to me is this like pure creative force where it's like idea, and like character, and I feel, I don't actually know the reality, but it feels like he didn't have much oversight when he came to DC, and like with those new gods, it's like there are to read it, it's like there are too many ideas here. Like, and it's like you can't, like what we were talking about, like, you know, struggling to get through an issue. It's like, for me, New Gods is a challenge because it's like, here's a big idea, and then the next panel it's like, here's another one, and it's just like, well, I don't know if I could keep up with this and hold all of these thoughts. But yeah, I think he just set up some great stuff. And you know, like a lot of cool characters, you know, and that pure creativity. And now it's cool to see people doing things with it, which I feel like for a while it was sort of left alone, you know. And now, you know, like, yeah, that Tom King, Mr. Miracle, this stuff, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think of Jack Kirby as kind of the source wall, like where if you were to just be one mere mortal trying to like understand everything, your mind would melt. So it really, you can only really absorb little pieces of it. So I think Bruce Timm did such a good job adapting that stuff to the Justice League animated series. That's where most of my knowledge comes from the Fourth World, where he made it so that we would be able to understand it but not be underwhelmed by it or overwhelmed by it. So yeah, I love this stuff. I can't wait to keep reading. I really needed to take a break, and I was like, issue 6. This is where DC recommends me take a break. I did look at the first few pages of the next issue because there was like this one cliffhanger that I was like, I need to know what happens. But other than that, yeah, I'm taking a little break from it. But it's fantastic stuff. So
nice. Well, Danny, we'll have to chat some more once you get fully caught up, because I've been reading this month to month. I'm right in there. I'm very excited for it.
I don't know how you keep it all in your head month to month, Mike. Good for you.
I don't know how anybody keeps any series in their head month to month, especially if you're reading 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like I can't. Like I just lose it, and it's like I have to go back and read the old issues to remember what's going on now.
I mean, I'll say it's tough. Like at this point in my life, I think I'm really only actively following like 5 books, maybe 7 books month to month. Everything else I'm like reading in batches. It is, but I need something to do every week, Jesse. You got to understand.
Have a kid, man. You'll
sure,
you'll never lack for things to do. I'm neglecting things right now. Like,
and we thank you for it, Jesse. Thank you very much.
I'll put that in the back of my mind.
If you ever feel like you're kind of bored, have a kid.
We're gonna quote you on that. We're just gonna clip that just to throw that out to the internet. Well, let me talk about a book that I've been reading. I've been very busy. As I said, I was at Gen Con. We did do last week's show with Claire, which was great. Fantastic to talk with her about cryptids and little guys and kaijus and stuff. And I've been trying to keep up on comics, trying to keep up with things. It's mostly just reading these books that I mentioned, 5, 6, 7 books that I'm keeping up with. I did finally start reading the Absolute Green Lantern, which is great. I don't really know anything about Green Lantern, and I think that's for the best because it's just really fun to see what Al Ewing is doing with that book. But the book that I do want to talk about is Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum. This was Danny's pick last week on the show. This is W. Maxwell Prince, Martin Razzo, Chris O'Halloran, letters by good old Neon. I mean, this is the Ice Cream Man team now working on a DC book. I can't believe it. I emailed Martin as soon as I saw that this book was announced. Like, I'm super, super hyped for it. And this is such a crazy book because it's exactly what I was hoping, and that is a kind of happy-go-lucky story that has this sinister underpinning. And as an Ice Cream Man reader, I kind of feel like I knew that was what the book was going to be. So I hope that folks out there who tried this book have no idea, because I have a feeling that later in this book, something's going to hurt really badly for them. And I can't wait for everybody to experience it. But this first issue is great because it kicks off like a classic Superman story with like an origin of who the character is. Like it's W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo kind of just doing a classic superhero book for the first time together over at DC. And I love how wholesome it feels. Like Superman just wants to, figure out what's on this weird comet. The comet has different colors of kryptonite on it, and now he wants to know what those different colors of kryptonite are going to do to him. Very straightforward premise, and of course, they pick the most complicated idea to go with the first issue. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I am so impressed they were able to do something so strange and have it all tie up beautifully by the end of this issue. I mean, I shouldn't say that I'm surprised in any capacity because I read Ice Cream Man every single month, and this is exactly what they do. But to have it work within the DC continuity and with Batman and Superman kind of working together to figure out what's going on here with some really interesting, like, schlocky, almost like super villain stuff with Lex Luthor. It's a fantastic superhero book, and it's a great almost Ice Cream Man story. Like that's how I took the entire issue. So I really, really love this. I cannot wait for the next issue. There's all these underpinnings, all these little things that you're like, oh no, where are they going to go with this? How are they going to take all this classic DC supervillain, superhero stuff and kind of make it their own? We see a little bit of it in the first issue, and I think there's even more to come. So great beginning to this little series that they're doing. Danny, I know you've got a copy. Jesse, did you get a chance to see this at all? Have you seen this at all?
I haven't seen this one. No.
Okay.
I have 3 copies, Mike.
Okay.
I was not going to pick up this Alex variant, and then Tula Lotte, like I pick up any variant that she has.
Nice.
I love that this feels like Silver Age Superman, and I don't think people experience that as much, right? Like the Silver Age for Superman was full of these wacky ideas that you don't really would even like. I was like, how did they put this in a comic book, especially if you started reading like in the 90s and after that, like where the stories were a lot more serious.
I remember like hating the Silver Age. I thought it was like so corny and dumb. Like when I was a teenager, it was like all this stuff. But now it's like I look at like Aquaman from that time period. I'm like, this is great. This weirdness is so weird. Like it's sort of so much fun. Like, and it's like I don't know. Like it feels like it's coming back. It feels like the new Superman movie had like that Silver Age influence where it's like, no, it is weird, but it's also a lot of fun,
Yeah.
And I feel like when you talk about Silver Age stuff, I'm like, yeah, I want to read this. I want Superman to be the fun book that you. Although apparently it's going to be really sad and hurt, but
I mean, that's just where my mind goes. I think I've read too much Ice Cream Man is the thing. Like, I just expect the next shoe to drop and it's going to be something horrific that I could never imagine, right? That's just where that book usually goes. Maybe they can't do that with Superman, but the way that they've written some of the Lex Luthor bits makes me think that something horrible is going to happen at the conclusion of this book, and I'm very excited for that. And it's a Black Label book, right? So they can kind of do that in some ways. And we got a lot of good swear words in some of these Black Label books. So maybe they can do some horrible art. I don't know, or horrifying art, I guess.
The last thing I'll say about this book, because I also don't want to spoil anything. I love that they included Batman because, of course, he'd go to his best friend to figure this out.
Right.
It's like anybody, right? Something's going on in your life. You phone up your best friend like, hey, I need to figure this out. And you need to help me out. So, but the way Martin Morazzo draws Superman, it reminds me a lot, and I hate comparing artists, but it reminds me a lot of the Frank Quitely, like the big stature Superman with the thick jaw, and like I really love that because it gives me that feeling again of reading that All-Star Superman, which is also kind of a weird book if you really look at all the concepts that they were trying to go through. So I can't wait to see where we go from here. So yeah, if you haven't picked this up, it's only going to be 5 issues, so like, it's not a high threshold of like this won't fill up a box, although maybe it should. So there you go.
I mean, don't trade weight this, folks. That's all I'm going to say. Don't trade weight this. It's that good. But let's move on. Let's talk about comic books that are new or old or just something you're trying to get off of your shelf. This is the top for a pile. I'm going to shout out the folks that are hanging out with us live on Discord today, what they're reading. Sugars is going to be reading Chip Zdarsky's Public Domain Volume 2. Peyton is going to be reading Fist the North Star Volume 1. That's a banger classic. Paul G is going to be reading Breath of the Giant by Tom Morelli. Avocado Kenobi said they're reading Black Cat #1 by G. Willow Wilson, and Nick is going to be reading Escape #1 by Rick Remender and Daniel Acuna. Great picks, everybody. Very excited. But let me kick things back over to Danny. What is on the top of your pile this week?
Well, I don't want to steal Avocado Kenobi's thunder, but I also picked Black Cat #1 for multiple reasons. But I love Black Cat. I think Jed McKay did something really fun with that character that really put it at the top of my list of just characters to kind of keep an eye out for. I feel like Marvel feels like they're having a good time with this character now. She was recently on Avengers. They also in the recent years they gave her the actual powers of her being able to use the bad luck powers to kind of get her way. So the characters evolved a little bit.
Is she a mutant then? Is that wait? How does this work? How does this factor into the Marvel categorization system?
Not everyone with powers has to be a mutant, Mike. All right.
Then is she an Inhuman? Tell me, Danny.
No, you don't have to put people in a box. All right, they just have powers sometimes.
Okay.
This is gonna be written by G. Willow Wilson, with art by Gleb Melnikov, colors by Brian Reaver, and letters by Joe Caramagna. The quick synopsis that Marvel gives us is: a super thief or superhero, Felicia Hardy is the Black Cat, the world's slyest, most skilled super thief. She loves a good score. The longer the odds, the better. But the entire world is turned upside down after the Amazing Spider-Man's battle with Hellgate, which I don't know what any of that part means because I'm not reading Spider-Man, but I'm going to jump into this regardless. So Felicia is turning over a new leaf as New York City's newest superhero, and her first villain on the list is the Lizard. So that's the part that sold me on the book. Other than the team, I love Giola Wilson's work that she did on Ms. Marvel, and what she's been doing with Poison Ivy has been incredible. Gleb Melnikov as well. He's been doing a lot of Superman stuff recently. So I just kind of want to, how is Felicia going to be as a superhero? Because she's tried to get in the past and it doesn't always work. So we have that. We have the creative team. I just kind of have to really check this out. Also, this has an Adam Hughes cover, so I probably would have picked it up even if I wasn't reading it. But there you go. Avocado Konami, let us know what you think about it later on. But I'm pretty excited for this book.
I'm so confused because I don't read any of the main Marvel stuff anymore, and all I can think of is the Ultimate Black Cat right now, and I'm like, she's a teenager, she's hanging out with Peter Parker's son. I don't know, I don't understand. It's very interesting.
But Mike, sorry, Jesse, what are you reading next?
I'm gonna be reading After God, which is a manga by Sumi Eno. It was a web one first, but I picked up a book of it. Basically, gods have invaded Earth and made parts of the world uninhabitable and stuff, and people have to, I don't know, fight it out. I don't really know much about it. I just read the premise. I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. And I go through periods of being like, I need to read more manga, like where it's and I feel the way I feel everything about manga and just encourages buying more. Like you can read a volume so quickly. So it's like if you like buy one volume of like Chainsaw Man, it's like, well, you can't stop at one. Right. Like that's like barely giving it a chance, despite the fact that you just read like 200 pages. Mm-hmm. So I'll just like go into a store or wherever, just like grab like 5 or 6 different things, and then the one I like I'll continue with. And this was just a one that looked interesting. I don't really know that much about it, but we'll see.
Interesting. I mean the pitch on the Viz website says survivors set out to answer an impossible question: how do you kill a god? And that to me just like sets off all sorts of bells and whistles in my head. So I can see being attracted to this, because what a crazy idea for a manga.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. I wonder if it's on the Viz app, because I also now want to check this out. Like the covers look insane too, which it's already a plus. And the concept of kids trying to kill gods is something that since my Evangelion days I've definitely really enjoyed. So
I mean, I don't see it on the Viz site, but because I think it might be a little bit more mature is my guess. But
maybe,
interesting. Well, I think the last time you were here, Jesse, you also suggested a manga, and I ended up reading I think it was a clown manga of some kind. I read the beginning, I was like, what the hell is going on here? So maybe I'll try this one too. But let me talk about what is on the top of my pile, and that is a book that I just got in the mail called Death Fight Forever. This is by Andrew McLean and Alexis Surritt. The synopsis is pretty solid. Like, a brooding, snarling cosmic evil lurks just beyond the veil of our reality. Watching with reptilian eyes, Lord Slyther pierces the barrier between the netherverse and our own world and steps through. His slit nose draws a deep breath. It smells like sulfur and burning tires. I'm like, come on. Like, I'm in. I'm totally sold. The Kickstarter for this book was really enticing in the sense that it has Alexis's name on it, so I immediately clicked purchase. But also that, it's inspired by like 90s era beat 'em up games, which sounds really cool. Plus, like, this cover, for those of you that are seeing this little video, is very cool. I mean, like, everything about this just looks crazy. It's Andrew McLean, who also did why am I blanking on the name? Headlopper. Thank you. I was going to say Trolllopper, but Headlopper, yes. And I've heard good things about that. I have yet to read it because, if I remember correctly, it was like coming out quarterly, and I was like, I'll pick it up when the trade comes out. And then like I never got around to it. So that's a book I've got to get to as well. But
it had like big issues quarterly, like 56 pages or 60 pages or something. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's like 3 series now, 3 volumes, I think. Maybe 4. But I love his work.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to sit down and just read this little collected or I guess like graphic novel of things. I mean, I just reread Night Hunters that Alexis and Dave Baker did a while back, and man, oh man, that like really just clicked over in my head better than the first time I read it. So I'm excited to get another book by him. I also, when this book arrived, I happened to also have bought a chunk of the Magic cards that Alexis illustrated, because I, for some reason, was very excited to like, I gotta buy these. He did a bunch of really insane looking neon colored Magic cards that I was just like, this has got to be in my little collection of cardboard. So great stuff. Very much looking forward to it. And I think if you want to get a copy of this, I think you can still buy it through a link on the Kickstarter, which we'll put in the show notes. But yeah, Death Fight Forever looks great. Anyways, let's move on though. Let's talk about Jesse. Jesse, we're here to talk to you about what's going on with you. So I guess to get things started, I gotta ask you, because you contributed to it, but like you did a page in the zine called "Inside Each of Us is a Teen Girl." Danny's got it here, right next to the wonderful Archie Kills JFK page in the zine that I also really loved. But there's one thing that I noticed about this that I think I've seen in some of your work recently is like this hat with an eye in it. Is there something specific to that, or are you just like drawing that kind of stuff?
I feel like I'll sort of lock on to like a visual thing. And so I guess with the hat with the eye, I like the idea of like a third eye and sort of that, like, seeing beyond, but I also like the idea of it being like a hat.
Yeah.
So like that it's not necessarily part of them, but part of them. And so it's one that I've sort of locked on to as like, I don't know, a thing I include in drawings. I feel like there's some things that just stick around. It's like some people, I feel like every drawing they do has a skull in it. Like whether that relates to what they're drawing or not, there's going to be a skull somewhere. And it's just become one of those things. Donuts are another one that show up a lot. And yeah, I like that. I don't know where that sentence came from, that inside every one of us is a teenage girl, but it seems true.
Sure.
So I've been fiddling with that sort of layered imagery, so felt appropriate.
I mean, it's a fantastic page. Like, obviously, we love it, and I think that episode. It's funny. I feel like I've said this to every person that's been on the show that worked in the zine. It's just like I feel, in hindsight, a little bad being like, "Hey, here's 450 potential ideas. Can you pick one? Would that be fun?"
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know how you settled on this one, given the huge list I gave you.
Yeah, I don't remember. I do remember being like, "This is a really long list," but it is just a list. It's sort of just like what immediately caught my attention, and I might have stopped. Like, I think I might have just been like, "Oh, there's one, there's one, there's one," and then once I had three, just like go back and look and decide. I don't know. Is mine within like the first 50?
I don't think so. It's funny. There's a couple people that dug like way deep. So like, I don't know how the list was sorted at the time when I sent it out, because that was the other thing. I was like actively sorting it, but like, no, you're pretty far down there. It's like in the first 100, I guess, based on the list. So maybe you just scrolled until you found a nice one.
I just scrolled,
yeah. But yeah, it's very, very cool. I think we're like, again, really pleased with it. I like the little, the very attitude held, teenager inside this giant robot. And yes, like you said, we all feel like there's a teenager on the inside of us. I think that was coined by our friend Kara, who was on the show. And I'm sure we were talking about Sailor Moon or something like that. Like, these things come up, naturally as part of the show. But yeah, Danny, I'll even throw over to you. I can stop talking for a second.
Well, I mean, I think first, I mean, I also love your page on the zine, Jesse. And when Mike said that you got back to us and you were going to do a page, I was like, oh, it's gonna look insane. So it was kind of fun to follow that journey, because I followed your work for a little bit. I think Hedro was probably the first thing I read, and now
first.
Yeah, and now you have this new book called DROME coming out.
Yeah.
Actually, by the time most people are listening to this, it will be out. So we got a chance to read it, so thank you for that. And once I started paging through your book, I thought, first of all, whenever I see a comic with no words, I'm like, am I gonna understand what's going on? And good news, I did. It was great.
Yeah.
So so I really love how your book is kind of separated. So do you wanna I guess tell us a little bit about the book first, and then maybe I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't, but I'll just talk a little more process stuff about the book itself.
Yeah, it's it's sort of a creation myth, sort of like starting kind of with nothing and humanity coming into being. And there are these gods who create demigods, and this sort of these kind of conflicts that arise between chaos and order, and intellect and instinct, and all these sort of forces at work and at play, and all these sort of moving pieces as this world sort of comes together, and people try to impose their wills on each other in various forms and ways. And that's sort of the story. And then there's sort of the way it's done. I think it's sort of, there are some books that are like very much a what book, but I think this is more like of a how book, where it's the way the story is told, the way characters are represented, the way things are shown are kind of like, you can't like really remove them from the story. And so I feel like talking about it doesn't do much service to it, because it's sort of like you can tell the story very simply, but it's much more in the way it's told, and so there's a lot of sometimes I hesitate to say experimental, but sort of like different direction of telling a comic from maybe standard. Like, there aren't many words. There are some, but not very many. It's going to be translated into French, or it'll be coming out in France next month. And I was just like, oh, that's funny. Like, that's the easiest job of that translator, because there are stretches of like 50 pages with no words. But yeah, so it's kind of very light on the words. It gets pretty abstract, but I think it stays followable. And sort of like, getting at these ideas of sort of creation myth, but it's also about kind of these very, very human conflicts, these sort of I think of like mythological stories as like these kinds of stories that have like come down through the years, and it's like they've been in like a rock tumbler until they've gotten to this like perfect smooth shape. That's sort of like the reason they stick around, is they embody sort of this like fundamental human conflict that continues to resonate. And so it's those kinds of conflicts and those kinds of stories that take place in it. I don't know if that's the official pitch, but that's like.
No, I like it. Look, having read it, I think you did a perfect job of describing it there. I think you checked all the boxes there. So. But no, it's interesting. I think Danny kind of got at it. The thing that I'm like the most curious about, maybe Danny, I don't mean to step on your toes here, but like, you made this book over a pretty decent period of time. It's like 300 plus pages. Like the thing that struck me the most about this is like every page is broken up into 35 panels or 35 blocks, right? It's like 5 by 7, right? Ish. Like, was there significance to that for you to choose that layout over any other numbers, I guess, in which you could have broken things down, or did that just kind of click the best for you in the pages you were working on?
I think I like, so there's this 5 by 7 like grid sort of underlying every page, and there are pages that are pretty close to splashes, but like everything's sort of like the rules of it. And I do like, I feel like I get asked about like layout and stuff a lot, and I think there's like this pragmatic aspect of it where with that kind of density, I feel a lot of possibilities open up, and sort of like having a very small panel, it's kind of like in movies of like how you can adjust the length of a shot. So you can have like a quick flash panel, but it's just going to be so small that it doesn't take up a lot of space on the page, and you still have room to do everything else. And it also, having that density, I feel you can get a hierarchy to the page of like, this panel dominates, like this sort of ranking of the panels and stuff. And so there's the pragmatic aspect, and then 5 and 7 I like because they're odd numbers, and so there's never a half. If I use that grid and I do 2 panels, it's like they cannot be the same size. One has to be bigger, and that's sort of, I guess, what I mean by like a hierarchy is like, well, one panel has to be more important, like no matter what. But I think there's also like a sort of a personal idiosyncratic of like, that's where my brain goes. Like,
sure, yeah.
I can't help it. Like, I was actually like, I talked about Baby Blue earlier, and it has basically like sort of the classic 6-panel grid where it's like, three tiers, 2 columns, 6 panels, but they're not like measured out all the time. And so like sometimes one tier is a little shorter than the other tiers. And like it doesn't bother me when I read it. It doesn't like jump out, but personally, I couldn't do that. Like, it's like I have to measure it out, and I have to have this like order. And so it's this like this mix of like, yeah, there's pragmatic aspects and there's all these things that can be done if you do a page like this, and then there's also this fact that I can't help myself, that like it. I just remember, and it's kind of always been there in comics for me, is like this idea that it's like, well, if you're going to have like 4 rows of panels, they have to be the same height. Like,
they have to line up, right?
If they're not, why are they not? Like, well, like, what is the reason? Like, and I know, talking to other people, they don't think it matters. Like, it's not important to them, but to me, it is, and it's this sort of thing where I like dense pages, and I like that sort of order, and yeah.
Well, it makes it all the more powerful when you have moments where you break it, right? Like, when you establish that rigid grid, right? In some ways, there's a few moments, I think, in DROME where you intentionally kind of break it with like characters peeking through things, or you have action kind of running out of these panels in some ways. I think it makes them really, really impactful moments, which is very cool. I have so many questions about how you break the rules in this book in terms of reading, but I will let Danny go, because I could ask a million more questions. Maybe that's where you were going, Danny.
We are literally on the same page. I didn't write it on the notes, but one of the things I wrote down while I was reading is like, I love how you kind of structurally set up these rules in the first few pages of the book. But then as the book gets deeper and deeper, you kind of break and start playing with the boundaries of those rules that have been established. But it's for a cause, it's for an effect in the book. And the feeling that kind of evokes, because there's all this order in the beginning, and then you're like, you can't do this. What's going on? That's not what we've already talked about this in the first few pages. And then now you're giving like, there's a few pages. I think it has the same panel layout, but it's like diagonally across all these things, almost as if like you kind of dropped all the panels on the floor, and that's kind of how they fell. So that's kind of where I was gonna go. So we can talk about that.
I feel that's another thing with having that kind of establishing that kind of order gives you that option of breaking it, and gives like here's a rule, and then like, well, here's another rule, like, and one thing that I've sort of felt sometimes with graphic novels, or anything that I read in like volume, that like at a certain point I stop paying attention to the art, which as I think of myself as primarily an artist, I find deeply frustrating. Where it's like I stop looking at it, and now I'm just sort of in it. And maybe some people people think it's a good thing, but for me, it's a very frustrating thing that those later pages kind of fly by. And so one of the things I wanted to do, and I also feel it helps the narrative, is to have the art evolve as it goes. And so like, okay, here's a new thing that happened, and here's a new like that the art is also telling a narrative as it gets more complicated, and the rules sort of like all these iterations of rules that I obsess about, and like keep growing. And so I like to think that as you get towards the end, it's like you're still, the pages are not, despite all this order and these rules, they're not static. Like it's like, oh, these pages are still changing, and the way they work is still changing, even on like page 250, 260, 270. Mm-hmm. It's going in a direction that is new. And so that was one of the things, and also like sort of setting it up as a challenge for myself of wanting, you know, they're going to different places, they're traveling to things like, you know, the afterlife basically, and like trying to do that without saying the afterlife, you know, like being like, how can I use all these rules that I've set up to create the afterlife and have everyone know that it's the afterlife, like that they just went into like a sub level of the page. And yeah, so it was a lot of thinking about of those sorts of things, and how I could add new things, because I remember actually, like, it's weird, hearing Joe Quesada talk, and he was talking about like storytelling, and this must be like 25 years ago, and he was talking about like going big, like, oh, you're going to do a splash page on the first page and it's going to grab everyone's attention. It's like, how can you go up from there? Like, you can't, if you start a little smaller, you can go bigger. But at the same, and so like part of me hears that and is like, yeah, how can you keep interest on a page? And I feel like there's right now, like, sort of, oh, and there's a big moment, splash page. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of boring, actually. Like, and I think there's other ways that you could draw attention to a moment that's not a splash page. Like what if it's actually just a very small panel on a blank page? Like, that would actually be much more arresting than another splash page. We've all seen a ton of splash pages. I don't think I've seen a page where it's just, I don't do this in the book. It doesn't happen, but like where it's like a little 2-inch by 2-inch panel in the center of the page and nothing around it. Like, I feel that would stop you dead. It'd be like, whoa, what just happened? And sort of like thinking about like how the medium can have that impact and be used to tell the story was kind of one of the driving things while making it.
Yeah, that reminds me. That idea reminds me of, there's this little 5-issue series that I read back in the day of like Fantastic Four versus the Inhumans. This is like before any of the stuff that happened in the last 15 years. But there was this moment where Black Bolt shows up, and he like, it's the Inhumans like fighting the Fantastic Four in like an Elseworld story, and he sits down. It gets down in front of the Fantastic Four, and they're all staring at him. They're yelling at him, "You can't do this! You can't blah blah blah! You're gonna break everything!" And he just says no in like the smallest font you could ever imagine inside this huge word bubble. And I'm like, that's how you make an impactful moment. Like that's how you show how powerful this character's power is, right? Like, it's that kind of stuff that stays with you too, right? Because I think your idea here of like a single panel on like a full white page or something like that would stick with me about like a moment that makes a book like truly rememberable, in that they played with this form that I have such a huge experience with, and they did it did something in a way that like makes me think about the medium beyond just the story that I'm reading, right? Which DROME has plenty of those moments. I think that's, again, I'm talking about breaking rules, right? I haven't read a Western comic in a while where I've been forced to read outside of the left to right, top to bottom, right? Like, there are parts of this book where we're following action like up and down, sideways. I mean, it's very much like Hedra, where you know, crawling through tunnels in some ways, but like Yeah, I feel like you did that in a couple different ways in this book. Like, how are you going about thinking about this? Are you thinking about like not just the panels and pages on the thing like in script, or are you thinking about like how can I tell this piece of the story from like the pages layout perspective, and then I'll inject what I'm trying to say maybe later?
Yeah,
maybe that's a hard question to ask, because it's like, tell us how your brain works, Jesse, please.
Tell us how you create art.
Yeah.
Explain art.
No, I think like I wrote, so the ideas like percolated for a while, and got to like and basically I wrote an outline, and I had this idea of like 5 chapters, roughly the same length, but after that, not much like scripting and sort of really working like with the visuals to tell the story, like figuring out like the order of the images, not sort of writing them. I feel like when I draw, I can let my subconscious do things, and I trust my subconscious more than I do my conscious mind. I think like my subconscious has better ideas than my conscious mind, and when I'm writing, my conscious mind is in too much control. And so if I write a sequence out, I think it's less interesting than if I draw it out. And like If I draw it out, like one idea will lead to another idea, will lead to another idea, and sort of letting my mind do that. And sometimes it's just like the sequence of images, and then there's sort of like composing it onto a page, and it sort of becomes like a puzzle, of putting a page together. And and then sometimes I might like have an idea like, oh, I think this will work as a way to show something, and I'll try it out, and it just won't work. So I feel like I spend a lot of time on the layout and the sequencing of images, like sort of on paper, and then sort of putting it together. But yes, with scripting, I feel like I feel that figuring out the plot and the sequences is important, but like the how of it, I want to figure out visually.
Gotcha.
Which is probably why there's so little dialogue as well. No narration at all.
Right.
Is just putting those pieces together, and kind of I feel like one of my attitudes for doing comics is to leave everything at its like creative peak, like I don't like to finish my pencils too much, because then if my pencils are really finished, ink can only make the drawing worse. Like it's like, okay, I've got this drawing perfect in pencil. It's like, oh, there's nothing for ink to do but ruin it. Like, so like layouts, it's like just the shape of the panels, just the sequences, not much in the way of thumbnails. And then the pencils, it's like basic forms, not too many details. And then ink, and sort of like trying to keep everything where it's like the most creative part is being done in this part. And so I think that also extends to sort of the writing of like, okay, this is the writing and this is enough. Like this is the creative part of the writing, and now into layouts.
Right. I mean,
and then,
I feel like that's...
of course I go back also. Like I guess I draw fast. And so I have no problem like going back, and I'll just draw this page again because it didn't work. And so like I think I feel like I throw out more finished pages than other people. Like I feel like other people plan it out, and they'll be like, I've got my whole book thumbnailed, and like they'll show these thumbnails. I'm like, those are so close to finished pages. And then what's what's smart about that is they don't end up throwing a lot of finished pages out. But I'll just be like, this page doesn't work. It's not the way I want it. It's muddy or whatever, and I'll just do it again. So yeah, I think I edit in a different way. I think other people pre-edit. I post-edit.
I see. Well, that was going to be a thing I was curious about around, like, you did some of DROME, if not all of DROME, like through your Patreon, like, and you're and you've done some other stuff through Patreon. So, like, what does that process look like for you? Like, where do you find, like, oh, here's what I'm going to show people? Because I know you did some stuff around, like, drafting for the cover and a couple of other things that you showed off to people. So, like, how do you decide what's going to get shown there and versus what makes it to the final book and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, I basically show just about everything on Patreon, like the process. It was a long process. I started in June of 2020. So, like, pandemic lockdown peak, I feel, where, like, all of us are like, what is going on? And basically I would, try to put up 2 pages a week. Was sort of a goal, which is a long way to 300 plus pages.
Sure.
And yeah, and I feel sort of like my attitude with Patreon is just to share whatever personal thing I'm working on. I still feel like I don't necessarily know what Patreon is and how it works, but yeah, just sort of put it up and sort of talk about it. And also, like, like, you'll see the editing process as well of me being like, yeah, this sequence is too long. I'm going to redraw these pages so that instead of 12 pages, it's 8 pages or whatever. And yeah, just sort of like thinking on paper, because also with Patreon I feel like there are definitely people, I think it really is just this idea of patronage. And it's like people want to support you. And I know there are some people who never look, like they pay the monthly amount, and I don't think they look at anything, and they're just supporting you. And I think there's definitely, like, some people's Patreons where I don't think they post anything, like they post like every 6 months or something, but it's just sort of there. And I guess for me, I feel like I should post regularly, and so. Yeah, DROME was like entirely worked on sort of in public on Patreon.
Interesting. Yeah.
To the end, which is also, I think, an odd way to read it. Like, it's for a reader, it's much closer to the way, like, I see it. Like, because I sent it along to you guys, and you read it. And you read it the way it's intended to be read, with like page. Like you're able to go through, you're able to see these things. But like my experience with it is like this came together over the course of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
and so it's like these little increments, and like holding it all together, as a reader over 4 or 5 years, I'm like, that's impressive. Like, that's a hard way to read something like this. So yeah, but yeah, I feel like sharing your work, I don't feel like it does any negatives, really.
Sure.
It seems like, people don't like spoilers, I guess, but otherwise I feel like you can sort of share anything. And if people are interested, or people are not interested.
And I can't wait to actually. I think the way we read it was still not the most optimal way. I feel like having the physical book.
Yeah.
The book, like, I can't wait to check that part out, because going through that experience.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's some things like there's some things that turning the page and reveals, like, it's not the same as me scrolling on the iPad. There's a few of those things that. And like moving the book around, like when you do some of those panels that are maybe obscure, just the little things like that you don't even think about. Like I know the story now, and I know the feelings and all the things, but I'm very excited to actually hold the book and get into it and just kind of go back through it. So
yeah, and the book came out beautifully, like 23rd Street /1 Second. Like it's it really is beautiful. Like the paper is nice, it feels nice. It's it's 300 pages, so it's big, it's oversized. It's and that's really like I don't know. I guess I'm old school. I'm like even for me personally, when I'm reading something, if I'm reading it digitally, it feels like it doesn't count. Like I mean like it. I feel like it for some reason, some way my brain works. It feels like I pay less attention when I'm reading digitally, and it's the same with like reading a a regular book digitally, looking at comics, even webtoons. Like I'll read them, but the connection feels different. And I don't know if that's just my age where I'm like, I need paper. But definitely DROME was made to be experienced on paper. And it's the same way with like Hedra. I feel like everybody I've said who's like, oh, you can get it digitally, there'll always be a comment being like, it's way better on paper. Like some person immediately like, no, this is one you should get the physical one of because it's oversized, because it's wide. I don't know how big your iPad is, but it's not as big as the book,
right.
And there are a lot of spreads and things like that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that there is something like I'm a big digital reader, but if only because I only have so much space in my house, right? But at the same time, like there is like an intention, I think, when you're reading a physical thing, this is why I also try to lean on my library a lot, just to be like, there is like a nothing, no notifications, no nothing, to influence me to like get distracted. So I definitely can see that, but I definitely think I can't wait to check. I'm also with Danny. I can't wait to check this book out in physical. Like that's why I bought a copy of Hedra, because like I had seen it originally digitally, and I was like, no, this must be experienced like in its full capacity, because those 2-page spreads, like they just don't hit as hard when they're not full sized, unless you are reading on like some giant device. But anyways, I be curious. Danny, I know you got some questions about Godzilla versus Boston. I was curious about that too. So Dan, do you want to go over to those before we wrap up here today?
Yeah. First of all, look at that kick-ass cover. Oh man,
what a cover!
I'm so glad my shop had one of yours, Jesse.
It's funny. You said you're from Texas, and like part of the thing I wonder is like, who outside of Boston cares about like Godzilla versus Boston?
Well, like people love kaiju everywhere. Okay,
kaiju Godzilla does a lot of the heavy lifting.
I know Godzilla. But I was just like, does anyone in Texas care what Godzilla does to Boston? It's like
I have Boston specific questions too. So
okay.
Because your story has a lot of very specific places and locations. You do a very peculiar thing where it's not really a layout, but you have like these little numbers everywhere, and you have like notes at the bottom of like where things are. Are these all places you're kind of like familiar with, or places you go around? Like I don't know how big Boston is as far of a city.
Boston's a small city. I don't know what people's attitudes towards cities are. Like to me, I would hesitate to call Boston a city, actually. Like it's like New York is a city, Chicago is a city, Los Angeles is a city, Portland, Oregon is not a city. Like like it's like it's a town. It's a big town, but and so Boston, I think, is about probably 600,000 people in it. But it's like it's very walkable. Like the path, such a dork. The path Godzilla takes is like a very walkable path through Boston. Like going from the aquarium to where the Boston Marathon ends. It's like that's not a difficult walk at all. And so all of those locations that come up in there are kind of like on the way, and all those I sort of felt like I was sort of like I kind of wanted mine to be almost like a tourist guide. Like,
right, I was gonna say
like these are all these places, and like these are like sort of like these facts that I think are funny, or I just think in juxtaposition to what's going on are funny sort of facts. Like a lot of those, originally I hadn't planned on having all the footnotes. It was just like, as I was drawing it, I was getting like this like Boston voice in my head of like, oh, you should like start talking. And while I was drawing it, the voice was like really snarky, like it was going to have like more anti other city aspects. But then I was just like, no, I think it should just be like lots of information about Boston, and also sort of gets at this weird Boston quality of like, it's so old compared to the rest of the country. Like,
oh sure,
there's things in there. It's like, yeah, that's the longest restaurant that's been open in the country. Like, it's sort of like crazy. And the Boston Marathon is so old. I joke that it's older than Oklahoma, but it is like Oklahoma was like, it wasn't a state when they started the Boston Marathon, and so sort of having this fun with it. And but I think Boston's not like a city like Chicago or New York, or even like, I'm outside of Philly now, and Philly I think is like double in size, and it's sort of, I feel like once you get over 1 million people, things sort of start changing, and it starts feeling more like a city. Says the boy from Vermont who grew up in a town of like 1,000 people.
You would think that a city in quotes, like Boston would be impressive to you then, but maybe not, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for a long time, like Boston had like 2 skyscrapers. You know what I mean? It's like, I think it has 3 now, but like that's what I mean by like New York. You go to New York and it is, and maybe it's just that I'm like, New York is so close. It's like, that's a city. Like, this is intimidating. Like this is a space that you are anonymous here. Like, you really know, like, oh, there's like millions of other people here. In Boston, I feel like you could feel special about yourself still. Like, you don't have that sort of like crush of humanity. And I'm not saying good or bad. Like, I wouldn't want to live in New York. Like, I love New York. It's a great place. I love visiting it. Some of my best friends are from New York. I think people who are from New York are the most unfazable people in the world. It's like you cannot shock them. Like they're the people on the subway, and someone starts taking off their clothes, and they're like, seem better.
Gotta get to work.
Like you are not gonna get a rise out of these people. But like, New York is like too much for me. Boston's like a good size.
Gotcha.
A quick rapid fire question here. Do you have a favorite Dunkin' order, or is that something Dunkin'? That you don't frequently?
No, Dunkin' is. It's crazy how inescapable Dunkin'. I don't know. Have you guys been to Boston? Like,
never. No, I haven't.
But we have Dunkin's now over here, so.
You think you have Dunkin's? Like, I would go to work and I'd pass like 4 on the way to work. It's just like, oh, I'm going to go to Dunkin's, and it's like, which one? There are so many, and it's so dense, and it's like a religion there where people are like, oh, Dunkin' Donuts coffee is the best coffee. And like, so my Dunkin' Donuts order would be, it would depend. Like, I'd treat myself on Friday to like a Dunkin' regular coffee, and I don't know what regular is where you guys are, but regular is like lots of cream and lots of sugar. I don't even know the amount, but normally I just drink black coffee. But I'd be like, okay, sure. Friday, and then like a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant would be my standard Dunkin' Donuts order. Dunkin' Donuts, it was so hard not to put in more of a reference to Dunkin' Donuts, just because like, I worked in Harvard Square, and just like come in take the train in the morning, and it's just like there's a line of like 10 people at the Dunkin's in Harvard Square constantly for 3 hours, and like they're so fast. Like those people who work there are like the ultra pros of Dunkin' Donuts, just because it's like Like they are taking so many orders. Like I want to know the numbers of like how much coffee do you make a day? Like that you have a line of 10 people constantly. Yeah. But
that's good.
Yeah,
I mean,
working on the comic made me miss Boston a lot.
Interesting. Just for the, I mean, there's plenty of Dunkins. I mean, the East Coast I think is very littered.
Not for the Dunkins, just for the New Englandness. I feel like for someone from Texas, Pennsylvania probably is considered like the North, but I'm like, nah, this is mid-Atlantic. Like this is not Northeast to me. And you're from New Jersey, and I'm like, yeah, I know the rest of the country thinks this is Northeast, but there's like there's a certain personality that I don't want to say like it's good or better. It's just home. It's just familiar to me. And it just isn't the same other places, and I miss that quality, of home. So it was really fun to get to destroy Boston.
Do they tell you like? Does your editor say like, or do you pitch their story in there just to make sure that stories are not like the same from different? Since there was like 4 different creators.
Yeah, they asked me to pitch a story, like the editors were also people I've worked with Ninja Turtles stuff and done covers for IDW as well, and so they knew that I lived in Boston for a long time, and they asked me to pitch a story. And at first I was like, I don't know any stories, I'm an artist, but then I was just sort of thinking about like over the course of watching my daughter one morning, I was like thinking about a story, and I just sort of pitched it to them, this idea, and they were like, yeah, go with that. It didn't have the footnotes at all. Like I said, that came while I was working on it. So when I sent it to them, they had no idea that it was going to start off with like page 1, 10 footnotes about the Boston area. And I was like, we can remove them if you want, but I think it makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah. If you don't read the footnotes, you miss a lot of the jokes. And like, this story is really funny. Like, it's cool because it's Godzilla stuff, but it's also very funny. But if you don't read those footnotes, I think one of them is just coffee. Like, one of the little dots just points to a cup of coffee.
There's a lot of jokes. All the jokes are in the footnotes, and like all the action up above is straight. Like, and then it's just all the facts about like how fast a Green Line train is, and stuff like that. The oldest subway in the United States, and it feels like it.
And well, now I got to go to Boston and follow the Godzilla / Jesse Lonergan tour, so I can get through the city. I'm just going to be walking around with a comic book in front of my face, it'd be great. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up here. Jesse, this has been fantastic.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I do want to shout out there's a Kickstarter right now for a reprint of your book Faster that should be ending, I think, a week after this episode comes out.
Yeah, I think so.
I hope that everybody out there can go support that, because Faster is a book that we love here on the show. I think I've talked to every person I know who reads comics about this book, so now's the chance to go get a copy of that. But DROME is out this Wednesday, just as a reminder, or this week, I should say, as this episode comes out. So please go buy a copy of that if you haven't already pre-ordered that. We're looking forward to it. I hear what everybody else has to say about it. I know there's already been a couple of articles that are giving it some high praise, and we also, I think, singing the high praise about this book. So I think everybody out there should check it out. But I think that'll do it for today. So thanks, Nick, today for proof listening. Thank you to everybody listening live. Thank you to Danny for coming on and being on the show with me. Thank you, Jesse, again, for coming and hanging out with us. It's always a pleasure to chat comics, and I guess Dunkin' Donuts, we'll have to bring that up next time you're on the show as well. Thank you to Zander for editing, and until next time, comics are good, and so are you.